my name is Daniel Velasco.
And I'm Garrison Lemire.
And this is our Psych Film Project. The character we chose was Eeyore, specifically from the Winnie the Pooh movie released in 2011. If you don't know who Eeyore is, he's the gloomy character within the cast of Christopher Robin's Friends. The movie follows this cast as they try and find Eeyore's missing tails, and here we can observe a lot of Eeyore's behaviors in a plethora of different scenarios. From observation, we deduced that Eeyore suffers from dysthymia, or also known as persistent depressive disorder, showing symptoms of chronic fatigue and a constant low level of self-esteem. Dysthymia is a depressive disorder where a person would constantly feel down. Some symptoms include diminished interest in activities, pessimistic outlooks, sleep and appetite disturbance, and more, including the ones already mentioned above. One interesting thing to note is that although, with our understanding of psychology, we can diagnose Eeyore with dysthymia, the same cannot be said for if Christopher and the others were to diagnose Eeyore. They would probably go on to say about how Eeyore is affected by the blues. This makes sense. Differences in cultures will lead to a difference in thought in subjective categories, such as psychology and psychotherapeutical treatment. Eeyore moves noticeably different than all the other characters. He moves slowly, lazily, as if he was exhausted. What this is chronic fatigue syndrome, or CFS for short. CFS and dysthymia are highly correlated, meaning if you have dysthymia, you most likely also have CFS. Something like CFS would sometimes be considered as a symptom of dysthymia. Eeyore also has a very noticeable pattern of subject when speaking. Whenever he speaks, there is a likely chance his speech would be affected by his low self-esteem. Take, for example, the evidence down below. Low self-esteem, similar to CFS, is also highly correlated to dysthymia, meaning that the presence of either one will lead to the presence of the other.
One symptom that was not shown is appetite disturbance. In this film, it was never referenced that Eeyore had or could be seen to have any signs of appetite disturbance, though it is a common symptom of dysthymia. And just to be clear, we are not saying that Eeyore does not experience this symptom, just that there was a lack of evidence to support the likelihood that this symptom was one that he experienced, and so we could not include it. Appetite disturbance, however, does not necessarily mean just not eating. It can also present as overeating due to somebody's depression or dysthymia. Determining which way it presents is all dependent on how the disorder affects the patient's brain, which can differ from case to case. For his treatment plan, we're going to start out with biomedical therapy, which is the use of drugs to help alleviate some of the symptoms caused by his dysthymia. We have chosen to do this in the form of SSRIs, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and some of these medications would include Prozac, Zoloft, or Paxil. There was a study conducted that pretty much found that these SSRIs were better tolerated by the body than tricyclics, and what they do is pretty much just increase the time that serotonin is in the synapse, and therefore will leave Eeyore feeling a lot happier. The second part of his treatment is going to be group therapy sessions that would employ a range of a lot of different cognitive behavior therapy strategies. In another study, it was shown that at least 18 sessions needs to be conducted for this type of treatment to be effective and for it to effectively help dysthymia. This would help Eeyore understand and work through his maladaptive thoughts, and in turn, this would hopefully change his behaviors. Alone, these two forms of treatment are effective. However, the same study that found that 18 sessions was needed, found that these combined treatments, or doing both of these congruently, are superior to just doing one or the other. Some ethical concerns for this treatment was that there have been reports, though there has never been a study done to test for a causal relationship, that some SSRIs have led to people getting suicidal thoughts due to feelings of agitation or restlessness, and that these patients would see suicide as the only relief to these. Other than group therapy being possibly uncomfortable for Eeyore, this probably would not raise any ethical concerns for his safety or well-being. A possible situational, cultural, or societal barrier that Eeyore may experience is that he is a male, and being a male comes with a certain stigma when talking about dysthymia or even depression or other similar disorders, and that the ideals in society for how men should behave is one of the leading factors to why men do not reach out for help and are reluctant to seek treatment. This may cause Eeyore to be more reluctant or less responsive to treatment options, and especially group therapy, where he is expected to talk out and work on his maladaptive thoughts and behaviors. As a broader perspective, this movie was not intended to be analyzed for the sake of an analysis of psychological health in its characters, and therefore is not a super great portrayal of dysthymia. Moreover, if it were to portray, there is more to the disorder than just feeling down, and many times there are good and bad days. Also, many of Eeyore's friends would probably just say that it's his personality to just feel down, when in reality he is simply a normal guy who happens to have a disorder, but it is not and should not be considered his identity or personality. When done purposely and correctly, the portrayal of these mental disorders in movies can serve to inform the public about these disorders, on top of showing them a message about the state of the world and on the state of the human condition.
Thank you for partaking in this presentation.